anyone use the phone anymore? No one knows. It's impossible to know, actually. All right. I feel like I'm speaking from a place of trauma. I'm not. But I could be. It felt weird. It felt mouthy. Okay.
My name is Eric Macaulay. I'm currently living in Vienna, Austria, and I work for an international quality assurance network for theological institutions in Europe. We've inherited some spreadsheets that we're trying to wrangle. Besides the regular contact information, we go visit schools, these theological schools, and we do an accreditation visit. And so we have different people volunteer who have been trained, so we need their contact information, how many visits they've gone on in the past, what special abilities they have, like we visit some schools that are only in German or in Spanish or whatever, and so it's good to have at least one person on the team that can understand the language.
Okay, this is probably one of the most straightforward use cases. It's really clear what we have is a lot of tables that are related to each other, and what we're really trying to capture is those relationships. The relationship between these visitations, the institutions, the evaluators, and the roles that they perform on these teams. Every time a team goes to a school to evaluate it, they want to make sure that different perspectives are present on that team. That's really important. Also, I just want to say that Eric sent me all of these documents, having already redacted anything that's sensitive, and added a bunch of comments. The date that an evaluator was appointed allows them to be trained and then go on site visits. This is the level of data care before you send it to me that makes you a favorite Spreadsheet Makeover guest, because it means I don't need to be doing this. Mwah, 10 out of 10. This is peak guest behavior. So if you're fantasizing about coming on the show and being a guest, this is the level. Do this. Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Erases the actual name. Keep some stuff in here. Keeps adding comments like, this is important to keep. Thank you so much. He also made a cheat sheet for me of what the acronyms are, okay? This is next level. It stands for, look, I'm looking at the cheat sheet. VET is Visitation Evaluation Team. You love to see it. Thank you. We have a bunch of columns. It's a bunch of information. It's all pretty straightforward. And we're starting to see things that probably should be some references. For example, this person in row 9 has 2 visitations, 2022 BB, whatever BB is, 2022 WCLP. Here are potentials, people who are interested in joining. So here they're in a separate table, probably shouldn't be, right? So if you've been following along, you know we're gonna put them in one table and they're gonna have a status. And then inactive. When Eric first showed me this table, we recoiled together. He inherited this in his defense. And whoever built this was doing their best. They were doing their best. I defend them too. Still recoiling though. Oh God. And then there is a copy of all the theological institutions. And now let's look over at Grist. This is Eric's planning table. This was him figuring out the tables, dashboards, what he needs. You love to see it. He has a dashboard here. When you click on a person, you see if they're active or not. So he's already doing that, making it a choice. There's a lot going on here. That's fine. We'll keep it. We'll trust that Eric knows what he is doing. Role on a visitation team. Oh, right. So here, could you only have one role or could you have multiple roles? Here it looks like multiple is okay. Competencies, perspective, the perspective they bring when they're on a team. Could be multiple here. He did confirm that for me. Visitations. So here would be a list. So let's find somebody who has a bunch. It's more than one visitation. 2. Can we do more? Here's someone who has a bunch. And then you just add from this list. Okay, there could be a better way to do this maybe. And then there's a card here where you see more information about that. We'll get into this in a minute, but the visitations table has like VET member 1, VET member 2, right? So Eric had told me that when you're looking at a visitation, there's a few things that are really important here. Let's look at this as a table. The visit, the nature of the visit, programs that are being evaluated, the team leader from the evaluation team, the student representative, those 2 must always be here. And then there's VET member 1 and VET member 2. Whenever I start seeing this, where you kind of have the same column but with another number, 1, 2, there's probably a better way to build this, because you're inevitably going to want a VET member 3 in the future. And if you can anticipate that happening, you should be building things so that you don't need to change structure. When you're adding rows, that's modifying data. When you're adding columns, that's modifying structure. So that's more in the creator role. That's in the designer of this solution that we are building in this spreadsheet, right? We don't want people coming in here and all of a sudden saying, wait, how do I add a 3rd member? And then now it has to go back to adding a column. Do I have permission to add a column? How do I do that? The review coordinator at the school that we will visit. This is what confused me, because when I clicked into some of these, they don't have anything like appointed role competencies, because I don't think they're necessarily evaluators with Eric's organization. So I think we can handle this a little bit better and decouple these things. Okay, so this is my phases. I do like following these phases because it means I don't trip over myself too much. I'm actually going to start with Eric's planning table. The planning table. What do I call this thing? Woof. I do this enough, you would think I'd have some kind of consistent terminology. I do not. Okay, so a table of people, absolutely. Training, yes. Languages, yes. Perspective, competencies, roles, appointments, and visitations. Yes, I've done the breakdown. I'm in the middle of doing the planning, and I'm trying to figure out the structure. So let's keep these tables, and then I'll see if anything was missing. Look up evaluators and see history. Look at evaluator recruiting. So I want a way to build visits and then an institutional lookup. We did the breakdown, kind of doing some play. Let me actually, we'll do it live. All right, I'm just gonna bring over some tables. And I kind of just want to look at each of the tables individually and start making some decisions about them. Because I think they just need some tweaks, but they're overall pretty good. It's just one column. We have a particular role. This table has passed. Things that pass, I'm just going to move up. Let me actually have a little check. It means I looked at this table of roles. So far, so good. Okay. These check marks are just, did this table pass muster? Here we have people. First name, last name, concatenation, email. Here, there's a longer list. The day it was appointed. There's some gaps here. He seems comfortable with this level of gapitude. Appointment letter date. When we spoke about it, he was comfortable with this actually being a date. That's interesting though, because it is only month and year or season for when the board did it. And sometimes they can have more than one when they were appointed to be student and when it was regular. It might not even make sense. It might just make sense to make this text. Even if what we're dealing with here is technically like a date, it doesn't have to be a date. It doesn't have to be enforced to be a date. I'm going to make a pitch to Eric that this should actually just be text. Conflict of interest letter signed was just a yes, no. So roles for this person, competencies, perspectives. These are visitations. Let me see what I'm looking at. Because here I'm tying it to a visitation, but I don't know what their role was, which is fine. That's what this dashboard is for. So if I click on this guy, I can go through and I can see he's number 11. Here he was a student. But like what happens if I come over, like the way that this is built, if I come in here and I add VET member 1, name 1, like it's not being automatically added over here, is it? No, that's bad. If I'm building a visitation, I'm adding people, I then have to come back here and make sure they're also here. I have to come back in here and fill in test and remember it for every single person that I added. That's not good. So build visits. We need to ensure that the people table visitations column fills with visitations, just so I don't forget. Let me give this a scary color. So spooky. So that needs work. Okay. So spooky! Okay. This is what we're saying could come from the same thing. I'll decide this later. Give it a spooky color. Okay, so that's some problems right there. So this needs work, but I've at least reviewed it and I know what I need to do. So I'm gonna move it up. As soon as you see this VET member 1, VET member 2, you are once again tempting the gods to be like, you need a number 3, and then you're like, no, I gotta build another column. What if we just made this a reference list? Like what if, and it could be 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, and it doesn't matter. It's everybody else. So we're gonna make this spooky red to deal with in a minute. Spooky, this is my new hot tip. Put spooky colors and then come back and fix it. Visitations, I think we're at a place now where I feel mostly okay with this. Add a little warning because it's got some spooky red I got to work on, but I have reviewed this table. Technically, I'm planning. This is still planning. I'm actually, like, if we go back to the phases, I'm technically still planning as I'm going through the structure at the same time. So I've kind of fused both of these, and that's fine. No big deal. Part of my planning right now, because this is a makeover, I'm not actually starting from scratch. I'm starting from a pretty good foundation that Eric put together. What I'm doing is I'm going through, looking at the structure, planning, trying to identify some problems, and putting spooky colors to remind me to come back. So coming back to institutions. Why did I make this spooky red? I think because I want to make this a two-way reference. When you create a visitation, it just puts the visit. Yeah. And I think these I'm going to go ahead and delete because we're going to have a table of contacts referencing this that we're going to look at. So I'm going to delete these columns. A little bit more fixing. This is just a dashboard with tables we've already looked at. This is just a dashboard with tables we've already looked at. So I've actually looked at the structure. Let's get relational. So let's fix up some of those spooky columns. This was one of them. For people, I think what I wanted to do here was have this be a formula. And what I want this formula to do is return to me anytime this person appears as either a team lead, a student representative, or, oh, let's do this table first, which would just be make a reference list for all other members. So I'm gonna make a reference list. Is this just gonna work? I feel like I'm a little brain done right now, but is this just gonna... I ended up just copying and pasting this column, and then for the few that have a second person, just added a second person. So I can delete these columns. I've dealt with that. Competencies, I think I just want to do this dot. Oh no, it's not competencies. Sorry, perspectives. This should be perspectives. And it should be a reference list to perspectives. Show me the perspective. So now we see what perspectives are actually being represented at this visitation. Oh, we should also, sorry, it should also include the team member and student perspectives. This is really big. I might try to spend some time on my own, not recording this, trying to see if I can make this cleaner. All it's doing, it's a little crazy. Okay, I need to pause here because I gotta run, and then I will be back later. Working on my spooky columns. I want to make both of these text because that makes it easy. There are probably other ways to do this, but I don't care. This will also be fine when it's just a few rows. Whatever gets the job done is fine. Okay, it's now less spooky. And this is what I wanted to be a reference to institutions. So now this is all linked to an institution, which seems important. More spookies here? No. What I wanted to do actually was then when I do this, add a two-way reference. Your institution. This should now be added automatically. Anything else red in here? I don't think so. One has no more reds, so I can make this green. Has no more reds, so I can make this green. And the last thing I wanted to do was to have this automatically fill in. Person could be tied to a visitation in one of three columns. Either this reference column, team leader, or this reference column, student representative, or the reference column, reference list, VE team members. All of that in one. This is now visitations. We got relational, we did all that, and we did the formulas and business logic all in one. So now we're really talking about workflows, reporting, and access rules. Eric had already built this dashboard. So see what teams they've been on before is the goal here. It might be easier to view this as a table. If that feels hard to read, we can make this a table. Okay, team leader, student representative, report writer, and the review. This is the evaluators. That has the history of visits. A way to look at evaluator recruiting. Okay, so this may be a related table of interactions. Maybe that's what that was about for recruiting. I think I'm just going to duplicate this to recruiting. Make the whole page. I'm just going to change a few things out. So here I'm just going to change this to be the in process and the inactive in case they want to reach out, potential. And then instead of visitations, delete that. So I think this is where we wanted a table of interactions. We'll call it a table of recruiting. Let me look at the columns he had in his table of interactions. That might have been what this is. Let's just keep it simple. They can always add more later, but I'm not going to overcomplicate this. So this is just going to be a reference to people, show, full name probably. Now that it is linked, this should be a date. This is where recruiting can be. I wanted a way to build visits. The first thing you want to do is plan a visit around an institution. So first, pick your institution. Some of these things seem more important than others to look at. I don't know enough about what is super important here or not, but we'll do this. And then we'll add a page called visitations. I mean, not a page, a table based on the institution. So it should show me existing ones, and then I should be able to add new ones. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit. Okay, so it's going to be a new program that is being appraised, an online one. I'm just going to put here a little note, which is going to be an Anais test. The team leader is going to be number 10, the student, number 11, the report writer, the reviewer, start date, end date. Is this a date columns? Yes. So we'll say, just making stuff up. What's this? Oh yeah, I was thinking if this could be a reference to the institutional contacts instead. I think I'm gonna go ahead and make that change since this is something I'm teaching Eric, and be like, why did I make this decision? Like, it'll go to institutional contacts. The team member should be around here. So we're going to be bringing in my boy, number 100. And then we want to know what all the perspectives that are being captured here at a glance automatically. So now I know when I fill these in, oh, I even want my boy number 100 and my girl number 12. Okay, my girl number 12 did not bring in a new perspective, but that's fine. So this is the visit builder. I think here we just want a place to see all visits, like real easy, all visitations. Just a quick way to look at that. A way to look at all of the institutions. Okay, that's pretty much the same. Okay. Oh, I think with institutions, we want to also link here the institutional contacts. So I'm just making these up. Let's make this dashboard a little bit nicer. Okay, that's fine. And then I think this should just be a table of who has these roles. Yeah, so you can see who these people are. And we wanted this linked. You can click in and see who are members, student representatives, report writers. Okay, so roles. You can still filter on this table, but it's getting busy. So this just gives you a more dedicated place to do that. Roles, same thing here. So if you need somebody who's got one of these languages, you can come look them up real quick. So that's a way to drill into evaluators by some sort of presets, things that we care about. We can do some recruiting here with phases. I did the workflows reporting. So there's no access rules, testing, fixes, and formatting. Okay, should I add more color? Should I make things pop? Is that the lipstick part of this? Is this the cute part? I kind of want to keep this. I mean, he wasn't going for color. I think I'm not going to do any more formatting. I'm going to leave this at his level. I got emojis here. The thing is, every page, every dashboard is nice and clear. The relations were pretty good. I did a little bit of cleanup there. For example, linking visitations to institutions, having that level of information, but I like when people at least get the structure right. And I was able to help with views and business logic. Okay, I will show him. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and start talking through what I did. The very first thing that I did was I just went through all of the dashboards and all of the tables, and I started just looking at what's right and what's missing. So the good news is all the tables you needed were here. I only added one and I'll explain why, but the tables were all here. So that was great. And the relations were pretty spot on. The only thing that I did was make sure that visitations, there wasn't a relation to an institution. So just relating it between people and institutions. So being at the center of that. So a visitation also is for an institution, even if it can have multiple.
Yes.
And then the other thing, really the biggest help was on like business logic. So if you add someone to a visitation, it'd be great if automatically in the people table, in the visitations column, it would just fill in whether they were team leader or student or just another member. It should just fill in.
Yeah.
Also in visitations, you can add these team members. So if we come over to the visitations table, we can add team members, but then it's kind of hard to see at a glance their perspectives. So I just pull in all of the perspectives. Coming over to the makeover, at the top we have evaluators. This is pretty similar to what you had, which is you click on someone's name, you see information about them, and we're also seeing here their visitations. It seemed like the most important thing you wanted to grab here was like the team.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And then nested under evaluators, it's all of those sort of reference tables, who are all the members, students, report writers. Same thing with perspectives, who has particular perspectives, competencies, languages.
Nice.
So like we were saying, I need somebody who knows, maybe Albanian's not a great one, but like Spanish, who knows Spanish.
Right.
There was an interactions table that seemed like what I was trying to, from our conversation and from your planning table, since you also make planning tables, I saw that we wanted a better way to manage recruitment. Now we're just filtered by in process and active, and then just basically add a recruiting table with interactions. Then here we have a way to see all visitations, so we can filter by year institute. One thing I did was for institutions, I actually created institutional contacts. And the reason that I did this is because they're not necessarily evaluators. And you want to know dean, faculty, are they QA? I saw QA, MC, the other roles. Like this might actually be more helpful when you go to an institution, because the next time you reach out, the next time they need to be accredited, you might already know, just like have this here and not have it confused with evaluators.
Right. And they change and people come and go, and being able, that makes a lot of sense.
Then here, the other big change I made was, so team leader, there always has to be a team leader, has to be one person. Student representative, there always has to be one. But then there was like VET member 3, VET member 4.
Right.
We're back to tempting the gods, because then you're going to have a visit where you need a 5. So instead I made this a reference list. Just include multiple people here listed. So we know who's the team lead, who's the student, and then who are the members here. And then this is just saying what are the perspectives of everyone in these columns: team, student, representative, and VET. So we can quickly edit. This is just a formula. Just so among this team, we have employer and academic faculty. So we can see what's represented. And visit builder. This is where now if I click on a particular institution, I can see some information about that card. I can see past visitations, and I can start making a new one.
Right.
So let's do a test here. So I can say, okay, this is now for 2025. The program is one of these. The institution automatically filled in because I'm linked. So this is 2025 RJG. You can see it already filled in here for visitations, the one I just started building.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, that card above for institutions. So then I can say number 1 is the team leader. We can see his perspectives already being pulled in, academic leadership. The student, we're going to go with 11, employer perspective. So I can already see what I'm building here as I'm going.
Yeah.
125 is academic faculty. I don't know, 14. Some of these might be theology student, right? So we start filling things in.
Right.
Assign a report writer, a reviewer, and everything else that comes through here. So now what I should see is when I go to number 1, 11, 125, 14 in evaluators, is I should be seeing on visitations the one I just created. It is also here.
Yeah.
And it's automatically filling in. Yep. So like you build that in, it's in there, right? That new one I just created, 2025 RGJ, it's under visitations. So this builder should make that a little easier. Select the institution, and that's it. I didn't mess too much with colors because you didn't have a lot of colors, so I'm matching your vibe. And I did do emojis. This is nested, so like you have your evaluators, you can go in, drill into it. But you can do your evaluation, recruiting, look at all visitations, all institutions, or build a new visit. Those are the main dashboards.
That's fabulous. Thank you. I'm just so excited. This will be wonderful.
Oh, I'm glad. Perfect. Okay, then I will send this over to you and you can get cracking. Their full name, it's just concatenating first and last. Is that how you say that word? First name, last name, concatenation. They're always 3 days long. See, He's saying here, they're always 3 days long. And I feel like when you say that, all you're doing is tempting the gods to screw with you and be like, this one is going to be 4, this one is going to be 2. So don't tempt them. Never say always, because then the gods are just like, these are like old Greek gods, obviously. They hang around just to harass humans. Everyone knows that. Don't invite the wrath.